The Square Ball Podcast.
Welcome to the show, brought to you with Levi Solicitors. 10% discount is yours at levisolicitors.co.uk/the square ball. Dan here, along with Michael and Moscow White. Daniel Chapman. It's time for Liverpool away. I say time, Saturday night at a ridiculous time. Whose idea was that, Michael, eh?
The football clubs.
Yes.
And Jeff Bezos, probably. What's this on? Or is it Sky, this one?
Sky, so it's a Murdoch move.
That long-term bastard.
They're all in the same thing
He
together,
used to be
aren't they?
good when he was in the A-team. I don't know what happened to him.
Well, they are playing away at Ajax on Wednesday night at Liverpool in the Champions League. We can only hope maybe they're getting the ferry back rather than flying, because we know that Liverpool are very conscious about the environment and so on and so forth.
Rough crossing.
Sustainability. Rough crossing. Everyone gets on the ale. Maybe a fight breaks out. The summer rests.
I mean, it'd be a long ferry, won't it? Because presumably it'll go up around Scotland to get back to Liverpool.
Hopefully. Yeah. Well, they have got that ferry across the Mersey, haven't they? So
yeah, I don't think it connects with Holland, though.
That one doesn't go
No,
there.
I don't think it's the same.
Different one.
The same ferry.
They need the Benelux ferry.
Yes. They've not had a great start by their own standards, not our standards, and are upper mid-table, whereas we are lower mid-table at the minute.
Very much the lower end of mid-table.
And are clearly out of the title race, and I say that with confidence because I think Klopp has already said it as well. They don't consider themselves in it this year. Mane was the glue that held them all together, it turns out.
And all those other players who were injured.
Which ones are they?
It's probably not helped. Oh, it's like loads of them. Now when Nunes was out, they've got Luis Diaz and Jota are both out injured as well. So if you've already sold Mane and then you add those ones to the pile, it's probably not ideal for them. I mean, they do still have some strikers. So I'm sure they'll be fine long term. I don't think they're going to go down.
No.
I quite enjoyed Thiago's ear problem. That's why he's been out with a hamstring injury and then missed the Nottingham Forest game with an ear infection. Said he woke up at 5:15 a.m. in the middle of the night in the team hotel, and they had to take him straight. He was in that much pain. He had to go to the hospital with a bad ear. It's when you know you've got injury problems.
An ear infection is not fun, though, is it?
It's swimming in the Mersey.
Yeah. Should have got the ferry.
Mm.
They've got one.
It says it's interesting. Klopp was talking about this. I was quite intrigued because you don't often get an ear infection as a sort of a football subject. But he's saying there was no chance for him to do anything. We drove him home. The decision was taken at 5:15 a.m. He woke up in the middle of the night and had the problem. I woke up an hour later, but the decision was taken the moment he woke up, and the doctor went there and they went to hospital. So I don't know if they have if the injury situation is so bad, that they have a doctor sort of in the room just in case they wake up.
Anything wrong?
Right, hospital.
See the piss. Okay, good. Let me know if it stings. Because I could be it.
Handing out cranberry juice. Oh dear me. And I think it was Phil. Was it Phil said this? Maybe in the analysis of Fulham, said in many ways, is it worse that Liverpool have had a little bit of wobble, because it does give you that little glimmer of hope. If this was like last season's Liverpool, you'd think, well, we're going to go there, we're going to lose. Who cares? But then because they're just a bit subpar, and we've seen Forest beat them, there's just that tiny corner of your mind goes, could we?
I think Forest beating Liverpool was all part of the malaise of this weekend as well. Was that you went, we're down then, aren't we? Because we can't even beat Fulham or Leicester. Forest are beating Liverpool. They'll probably finish Champions League places now. They've got a brilliant massive squad.
I enjoy so much how you catastrophise. It's great.
Yeah, I think that was Liverpool basically added to an already shit weekend by losing to Forest.
Yeah, very much so.
There's an element there as well. If Forest can beat them, why can't we?
Because of Leeds.
Yeah,
it's the way.
But then there's also the very small sample size, but it's still a sample size of this season of going, well, we did pretty well against Arsenal. We did really well against Chelsea. Could we?
Yeah, we could. And if they've got loads of injury problems, they're in Ajax tonight, whereas we've got a week of training.
That Dutch town of Ajax.
Yes. Well, they're in the Ajax Amsterdam arena. They're playing them. Don't pick on me. They're in Amsterdam, stoned out of their tiny minds, and so there are those kind of, we can catch them tired. And I know the whole reason we're playing them on Saturday night is so that they can have a little rest coming back. That's part of the logic. Is you have to leave this gap between the times, and so
I'm sure Klopp will let us know.
well, it's because Klopp was moaning on and on about noon kickoffs. He was like, I can't believe you would make us play at noon. And so the solution is you play at night, and then he lets you off, doesn't shout at you. But that's why we're playing Saturday night. And is that going to be enough time? Will that make the difference, or will he just want to use that as an excuse again? Well, we should have played at 5 a.m. when our doctors were available.
It would be very Leeds. I said this before, and I am sort of just tongue-in-cheek because I do expect us to lose this, but wouldn't it just be so bloody Leeds of us to win this? Just to spite us all for being miserable this week.
Just as they've lined up another manager to come in for Bournemouth, and then they have to go, ooh, do we sack him now? Can we sack him now anyway?
Well, I think as I was talking before about the potential future insufferability of Jesse Marsch. I'm kind of tongue-in-cheek. I can just picture it. It's like, well, you know, when he's talked about going into politics at one point. He's not ruled it out when he was asked. And I can imagine him doing a stump speech and saying, you know, I was out against Fulham and then I brought it back. I can picture that. But I think worse would be if we do beat Liverpool, Radritzani's going to tweet, Angus Kinnear's programme notes for the Bournemouth game, Victor Orta shouting at people, so wading into the away end at Enfield, trying to strangle anybody who ever doubted him. You see? And then obviously it's the defeat to Bournemouth that puts us right back to square one. But it's kind of reached that point where you don't necessarily want them to have anything to be pleased about. I'd love us to beat Liverpool. You know, I can't ever get into the mindset of like, oh, I hope we lose because this will happen, that'll happen. It's more accepting that a byproduct of us winning this game will be an increase in the sort of smug confidence that might keep this going longer than it would otherwise. And yeah, the tweet, the inevitable, because Saturday night as well, Andrea will have a drink before the game and then we win, and then it will be like, God, somebody will, you know, do we trust any of them to take his phone off him anymore? Is anybody, or it'll be like, no, go on, they've earned this one, Rads, get that tweet out there.
Somebody needs to put screen time on his phone, don't they?
but they'll turn it off for this. They'll
circle the wagons.
Nah, they'll group write it. Let's all write it together. We'll show him.
What do you think could actually happen if Victor Orta was? Because his more effusive moments has always been between
effusive
someone giving it the sort of hold me back everyone thing. Next time, let him go, see what happens.
Yeah, be interesting.
Probably just get his head kicked in by a pensioner in the West Stand. Now that'd be worth seeing, in fairness.
Oh dear.
Phil Hayes doing his kickboxing, isn't he? Maybe it's those two need to get in the ring.
I think Phil was kind of giving it the biggin about his kickboxing the other week, wasn't he? Saying how much better he's got.
Yeah, you should have a fight with him and see how you would just test it.
He's working his way up to Victor Orta.
I'll go for the soft bit on his head. See that scar? Oof!
Like a newborn baby when the skull's not quite
exactly.
Yeah.
It'll split in half with a good chop.
You know his weak spot.
Don't hit Phil's soft head.
Yeah, no, he's a nice man. He's a really nice man. Back to Liverpool and the big tactical revelation. Go on, Michael, deliver it. Do you want any sort of drum roll or build up?
Well, I think Moscow should, given he was the very first person who put us onto internet. Charlatans who scored.
I mean, they're and that's a decade, isn't it, of or more of incredible, detailed statistical service. People think analytics and stats-based football work is like a new hip thing. Been doing it since back in the day and never bettered, frankly. So whoscored.com using their incredible detailed algorithm.
Before you get to the climax here, I just want to say as well, have you noticed that they've changed what they do, how they present now as well? Because what we normally do is we'll pop on there and we get a screen grab of the characteristics of the opposition, but they've actually done like a head-to-head characteristics now, haven't they, of the two teams that are featuring in the game, which has saved us some work.
Innovators. They're just constantly innovating.
They've got our strengths right.
They started 10 years ago so far ahead of the game it was untrue, and they just keep innovating ever since to keep themselves even further out there. Nobody does analysis like this, and we're, I think, proud to continue this association that has never quite blossomed into a sponsorship.
No, it hasn't.
The losers. But yeah, they reckon we play with width, which is mad. Leeds style. Attacking down the left.
Yep.
Right. Aggressive, true. Play the offside trap. I mean, we try. Consistent first 11. I mean, that's got to be before the last week when we had 4 changes at Leicester and 6 against Fulham. And yeah, play with width. Do we? I suppose with Sinistera tries.
I just wonder if that's the incessant passing out to the fullback that then goes back to the centre half.
Yeah. I mean,
sheer number of touches in a wide area.
Sinistera was out there a lot more on Sunday, and there were those big diagonals finding him. But the question is always what happens from there, which is penalty spot, basically, and the D. And the goal that we scored is probably right because that went out. Did it go to Sinistera first, and then he gave it to Aronson, and he plays a square ball across the front of the penalty area that Harrison, and there's the other end of the width. So wherever, if Sinistera is out near the touchline, and then he plays it inside to Aronson, and then the other winger is basically on the D of the penalty area, and then he beats their player. He was quite, I don't know why their player didn't just cut that out, but then he was through and fluffed the chance and Rodrigo scored. That's us doing width.
That's us doing us things.
A team that really does play with width would be Sinistera on one touchline, would look up and he'd see Harrison on the other touchline, and opportunities to kind of,
and they'd wave at each other because the ball was going through the middle.
Yeah, basically.
Talk about Leeds' strengths, Michael. Mind you, have we got this long?
Stealing the ball from the opposition.
Great, that's it.
Which is true.
It's true. It is true.
What are Liverpool's strengths, though?
And also, it's what we try to do, so Jesse can be proud of that. Obi pins this up, does a presentation. Guys, look at this. They've seen the good that you're doing.
Before giving it straight back to them should be the thing it says after that.
There is that.
But that's also kind of part of the plan, isn't it? The weaknesses are probably about right for us. Stopping opponents creating chances, avoiding individual errors, defending against through balls, protecting a lead, defending against skillful players.
Playing football is about the size of it there at the minute, isn't it? Yeah. Liverpool's strengths, though, lots of attacking set pieces. Coming back from losing positions, attacking down the wings, defending set pieces, creating scoring chances, counter-attacks, protecting the lead. Shit.
Why are they only 8th? They've got loads of good things going for them.
Well, they need to. They also probably Jurgen Klopp needs to get this up on a screen. Say, come on, guys, this we should be getting more from this.
Is there any way of knowing what Jesse's going to do in this, given this Tombola team selection over the past week?
It feels like there'll be another Tombola, doesn't it?
Do you think Joffrey starts? Just because people have said it,
and he's from Liverpool.
Yeah, he's actually. Is he a Liverpool fan?
I think he is a Liverpool.
Yeah.
That's a good one then.
Yeah, Academy Dreams. It was revealed,
get Adam Forshaw back with his broken whatever it is this week.
Everything.
I can't remember.
Broken everything
because he popped up with a UFC fighter, didn't he? And I'd kind of ashamed to say because I like him. I'd forgotten about Adam Forshaw, and I'm wondering if because Jesse Marsch, when he does his injury updates, tends to always say, Stewie is doing this and that, and he's going to be coming to America with us. Apart from him and maybe a little knock here and there, everybody else is available. Adam Forshaw is clearly not available, but he just doesn't seem to ever give an update on
forgotten about him,
on whether he's injured, whether he's not, and what he's doing. And then I just see him in Liverpool's changing room in a big puffer jacket with Stuart Downing and an Ultimate Warrior, and I'm like, well,
an Ultimate Warrior,
whoever it was. And I'm just kind of, what's Adam Forshaw's deal? Because in pre-season, I thought
ropes around his arms
before he got injured. There was a bit of I could see Forshaw working in this team. I think it was the Brisbane game. He played really well, and he set up a goal with he just intercepted a pass and first time passed it to Dan James, and Dan James scored. It's like, wow, if we do that all season, then this could go really well. But I know where Dan James is. I don't know what Adam Forshaw's up to. Plus, and I'd like to know. I'd like him to be, maybe it would
happy.
be. I'd like him to be happy, and I'd like him to be playing well for Leeds, because I think it would help if we had more of our players playing well.
Do we need to bring Junior Firpo in to counter Mo Salah?
I mean,
no one's saying anything now. He's a specialist. He's a specialist left back, one of the best in the world.
Says who?
Didn't Jesse say something like that?
Well, Jesse says a lot of things.
So he
does.
A unique skill set or something.
We're talking, weren't we, about, like, I think it was over on was it Propaganda Extra? We were talking about feelings about this and getting more empathetic as you get older and trying to be nicer, from a human angle about these things and remembering that these are people too. I really don't want to see Junior Firpo in a Leeds shirt ever again. That's how I feel about it this week.
I've just looked back to Anfield last year. I'm
sure he's a nice man.
We actually started all right at Anfield. Then Mo Salah scored his penalty, and then 18 minutes, Junior Firpo yellow card. But to his credit, as always, he then played all the way through to full time without getting a second one. It is one of his sort of.
What was the score?
Talents. Yeah, the score wasn't great.
That's because referees leave him on because they see it would do him. It would do us no good.
Yeah.
Let's get into the match forecast then quickly to round this up. This is what Who Scored in their head-to-head analysis have said. They predict for the match that Liverpool will make a comeback if they go behind.
Big if.
Very likely.
Big if.
Liverpool will create many scoring chances. That seems likely.
Mm-hmm.
And Liverpool will stray offside often. Also likely.
Doesn't say anything about us, does it?
No.
Run it. Well, it does. It says that we're going to catch them offside a lot. Coops is going to marshal that back line.
That high back line.
That high, narrow back line.
Well, I suppose, if the fullbacks are off trying to provide fake width, it means there's only 2 players have to organise the offside trap, so that should make it easier. Only 2 of you have got standing sort of in the same place.
What happens if there are 3 players trying to break it?
Well, yeah, still, you just stand in front of them.
I suppose you do it well and then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. So that's if we just catch all their players offside at all times, nothing can possibly go wrong.
And just a final thought on this. There's always that issue of going to Anfield as well and the ref being a massive homer. It's Stuart Atwell who sent off Sinistera the other week against Villa. So there's
Have you calmed down about that yet, Moscow?
There's that to contend with.
We would have beaten Palace with Sinistera.
Well, maybe that's what they're send Sinistera off again just to hamper our chances in this game of what will be an obvious Leeds win. Sod it, Leeds win. I'm going for Leeds win. What are you saying?
Nah, we'll lose.
It'd make a hell of a story, so yeah, let's do it.
Let's do Leeds win.
Let's bring on everybody after the game with all the confidence of saying, you thought after Fulham there was no coming back. Let's let them have their last moment before we lose to Bournemouth and Spurs and everything goes wrong again.
This is the start of the winning streak. We beat Liverpool. It's a springboard for the season. We go on, we beat Bournemouth. We get clear of the bottom 3 just before the break. Because we saw Spurs are trash as well because they lost to Newcastle. So
Newcastle, who had a really good start in the 4th.
And have spent £200 million.
Yeah.
But they're pretending not that they didn't. We didn't spend any more than anybody else. There are those bits, the stats that say we're mid-table, and then the start against Fulham, and there was a bit at the start of the second half when we kind of had a lot of the ball and we did all right. And if we just concentrate, because all the goals were set pieces, so if we concentrate on set pieces, those don't happen, and then take a couple of chances.
What you're saying is, if everything goes in our favour and nothing goes against us, then we'll be fine. And I agree, Moscow.
Well, I don't know. There are just those.
Football is a far more. It's on a knife edge, isn't it? Far more than you would ever believe. We go into it feeling miserable, but it is moments turn games, and you never know. This is why we're still here. And the other point about this is that I don't want to feel any more apathetic and miserable than I do right now. So why bother indulging in it? Let's just say Leeds win.
Leicester are maybe the other example as well. They basically changed nothing, just continued with Brendan Rodgers, convinced that he's going to lose his next game and be sacked, and then they beat us and win the next game 4-0. So it's kind of...
So we win 4-0?
Stuff can happen. Stuff can happen.
No, this is 2-0.
We're 2-0 win.
4-0 against Bournemouth.
Right. Okay. Fine. We'll take that.
Okay. So will I. Yes.
Part 2 done and dusted, then Heroes and Villains coming up for you in Part 3. Stick about for that.
The Square Ball Podcast.